we are discussing how the conferences must be supported or organized in order to, so that's why our discussion is so before your speech, we are express our opinions about other conferences which are in parallel, and people are arriving and leaving, and their program were made last moment, and that's why and our students, they told me that our first time for such conference. Yes, it's a very specific conference, something excellent. So just to have such experience, this conference was invited to your university. Okay, we start. Selma, are you ready?
Yes, I am. Do you hear me?
So please.
Okay. So, good morning, everybody. I'm sharing my screen now. I hope that you are not bored of me, because I am talking all the time, and I had many presentations with my group in this occasion. But I hope that it will be fine, because today I'm talking to students, and I will try to focus more on the practical issues of our projects and on the workflows. I'm apologizing in advance because we have some works at the faculty, so if the sound will be audible to you, please let me know so I can go out and shout at these maestros who are working now. So again, my name is Selma Rizic. I'm the leader of Sarajevo Graphics Group, the laboratory for computer graphics at the Faculty of Electrical Engineering, University of Sarajevo. What could be our motivation to work on digital cultural heritage projects? All of you are aware that actually cultural heritage enables us and helps us to understand our history, our past. Fortunately, we now have these digital technologies that also enable us to understand better the cultural heritage, and even to participate in it or to experience it using virtual, augmented, and mixed reality. These technologies have great potential in visualization of cultural monuments using their 3D digitalization and various other presentation techniques. The additional quality could be obtained by adding stories, and we believe that storytelling for cultural heritage is the best way to communicate the information that could be a bit dry and not so attractive for all kinds of people who are not professionals in heritage. And storytelling can really breathe soul into the reconstructions and 3D models that we create. So in one sentence, our goal is to revive the forgotten cultural heritage in collective memory of people. Sarajevo Graphics Group, as I'm saying now already the fourth time, has been founded in 2004. I'm repeating this, assuming that maybe some people didn't follow the previous presentation. So those who did, please excuse me. So we are computer scientists. My background is computer science, and I have had my master's degree and PhD at the University of Sarajevo. I'm a doctor of technical sciences, and I graduated my PhD on computer graphics. Computer graphics has many areas. It is a very wide field. So we are not so much into technical computer graphics such as algorithms and programming, but we are more in computer animation and multimedia, virtual and augmented reality. And in fact, our expertise as a group from which we have publications is the subfield of interactive digital storytelling. We developed several methods of interactive digital storytelling, and we tried them on digital heritage. So during this presentation, you will be able to see our progress and our drawbacks that we have corrected in every next project. Of course, in order to have successful projects and presentations, we also had to include in our projects the other disciplines of people who contribute there to make it a common good done project. So we invited, of course, archaeologists and historians to help us with the background information on the cultural heritage objects that we have been recreating. And of course, we invited the artists, the film professionals, the video professionals, musicians, authors of music, actors, and all kinds of multimedia people who are members of our production team. Our projects can be divided in three big groups. It is cultural heritage virtual presentations, virtual museums, cultural heritage virtual presentations, meaning to recreate the objects that don't exist anymore and are preserved only in remains, and to recreate their original appearance, to populate them with actors in the costumes of historical characters who can tell us stories about the past of those objects and make us understand it better. The virtual museums are the selected collections of museums that are digitalized, but not only digitalized and put as pictures or 3D models in the museums, but they are also enriched with context in way of storytelling that makes the visitors understand better the museum collections. Working with museums, we also combine the digital content in the physical exhibitions, and we succeeded to enrich the exhibitions of several museums with VR and AR applications. And now we plan to continue with this work for more and more museums. We also have been producing the virtual reality movies that are presented in the first day of the conference. And those movies we believe to be the future of cinematography, because 360 cameras are really something that is a device that makes the movie immersive and makes the viewer a part of the movie. When you put on the headset and turn around, you have a feeling that you are in the middle of the movie. So I will again play our show reel video just to show you what kind of professionals are collaborating in our applications. is the link to our laboratory, so you can see there all of our projects which are online. Second. So the first project that we created was done, as I said in the keynote talk, with the help of the University of Bristol, because after the war, we really didn't have anything. The faculty didn't have any more building, so we were kind of hosted by other faculties. All our equipment has been stolen and taken to Belgrade, and we lost also many people who either died in the war or moved out from our country. So I was invited in 1998 to teach at the faculty as a lecturer, and that was my first encounter with computer graphics. And after several years, I went to a conference in Graz that was supposed to connect the Eastern and Western European countries in research of computer graphics, because obviously the Eastern European countries were kind of backwards and there was no connection between these groups. And the president of the conference was the famous Professor Alan Chalmers, who was a vice president of SIGGRAPH conference at that time, which is the most important conference in computer graphics field. So I went there to present a poster about some work that I did for my master's thesis, and Professor Chalmers dropped by me and my poster, and he said, "I didn't know that there is a computer graphics in Bosnia and Herzegovina." I said, "Well, there is not. It's only me. I'm trying to do something, but you know, it's quite difficult." And he asked better and said, "If I can help, I would be really happy." So I took that opportunity and invited him to apply together for a UNESCO participation fund. And we got a small budget to make a first digitalization project in Bosnia and Herzegovina, of course, with his equipment from University of Bristol. So he came to Sarajevo with laser scanner, with illumination devices, lights, and we 3D scanned this monument on the right side. It is a gravestone called Stečak. Stečaks are famous gravestones from Balkans area, and they were used for burying people. Also, they were hand carved in stone. So on the walls of these Stečaks, you can see kind of storytelling from a medieval period where a life was described, and there are various symbols meaning something in their life. So what this Stečak is one of the best preserved and most decorated. His position is in the National Museum of Bosnia and Herzegovina in Sarajevo in the Botanical Garden, and we used at that time in 2005, it was a cutting edge equipment, Minolta 910 laser scanner. We created a very high quality laser scanned model, turned it to a mesh, and recreated a corner that was missing during the time and decay. And then we made a workshop for our museum professionals and cultural heritage workers to introduce them first time in their lives with 3D technologies for cultural heritage. It was really a great success, and that actually put us on the scene of cultural heritage digitalization, and that was our start. Several years after, we created the reconstruction of the Church of the Holy Trinity in Mostar. It is an Orthodox church, one of the most beautiful in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And unfortunately, so this is the appearance of the church before the war. Unfortunately, that church was completely destroyed during the war in 1992. Croat army has not only burned the church, but they also exploded the remains of the church. So after the war, it looked like this. It was just a kind of bunch of stones and completely sad and not recognizable. So we decided to create a virtual model of the church, virtual reconstruction, but not only the reconstruction, we also populated the model with the priest. It is the actual priest in charge of that church. And he was super helpful to us at first with the background information and photos of the appearance of the church. And then he accepted to be recorded on the green screen and to be inserted into the model, where he told the story about the history of the church and about the parts of the interior and their purpose in the Orthodox religion. That was a very successful project because the church was at that time, the Orthodox community was fundraising for physical reconstruction of the church that has been completed only now last year. And we can be proud that we gave our small part in fundraising and visibility of this beautiful monument. Another monument that we recreated as one of our first project was Isa Bey's endowment. Maybe some of you know that in Islamic religion, there is a kind of issue of endowment where people who have positions in the government or they are rich for any other reason, they are expected to make something for the public welfare. So they were building all kinds of objects for the public use, such as schools, public kitchens, accommodations for travelers, and so on. And they left that as endowment for the future generations. And that endowment was sustainable because usually there were shops or meals for wheat, and the income of those shops or meals was given, a percentage of income was given for maintenance of the endowment. So we have many endowments in Bosnia and Herzegovina and all over the former Ottoman Empire. And one of the first endowments in Sarajevo was the endowment of Isa Bey Sakovic, who is believed to be a founder of the modern Sarajevo city, modern in the Ottoman period, where the city extended along the river. Unfortunately, his endowment was decaying, and in the socialist regime, it was completely destroyed. The last building was destroyed in 1957, and the gasoline station was built in that place. So there is no trace today of this endowment. Within our project, we created the virtual reconstruction of these objects. We have there a teke here. Then there was a place accommodation for travelers who could stay there for several days for free. Then the public kitchen where people who are poor could eat, and the water meals that were placed along the river. Teke is a place where Muslim believers come and pray, and they have certain rituals that they are performing in that places. It is not very well known in the public what actually they are doing in that places, and somehow people are a bit reluctant about that. So we decided to introduce the public with one of these rituals, and we recreated it in form of interactive computer animation, where the user is surrounded with these believers who are praying and making their ritual, and actually can, clicking on them, have some explanations what they are doing and what is the purpose of this prayer, what is the symbolism of all of these elements. After that, we started to recreate many cultural heritage projects and objects, and also intangible cultural heritage. As you most probably know, Sarajevo was under the siege for 3.5 years during the war in the 90s. We were surrounded by Serb forces, and we were left without electricity, heating, any food or anything to live, and we were shot at constantly. So it was really a difficult period in our lives. And there is an exhibition in the Historical Museum of Bosnia and Herzegovina that you can see on the right picture, where the photos from the siege and the objects that people have created in an improvised way to survive have been exhibited. But the problem is that when you enter in this physical exhibition, you actually don't completely understand what was the purpose of each of these objects, because all of them have their stories. So having 50 students per generation, we decided to create a virtual museum of Sarajevo siege called Sarajevo Survival Tools, where we use the digital story to guide the visitors through the exhibition and offer them some context of the siege to understand how it happened, when it ended, and so on. And we divided these objects into thematic galleries and recreated them as virtual models. So every object has its story, its video, and the people can understand what was the purpose, how it was created, who donated it, and so on. This is a project that we did completely for free because all of the project team participants have survived the siege, and we had a need to tell our story to the public. So we did it completely for free, and this project has 500,000 of visitors, of clicks by now, and it is really very popular. We hope that it will be soon introduced also in the physical exhibition. Another project that was quite successful and very interesting for us was the Tašlihan project. Tašlihan was a hotel, and it was actually the largest hotel in Sarajevo and in the Bosnia province during the Ottoman period. In the physical model of Sarajevo old town at that time, this is the hotel. So this is the photo of the physical model. And as you can see, it is a combination of a hotel and also the bazaar that is on the side, because that was a common architecture in the Ottoman period. And on the floor were rooms for travelers, and on the ground floor were stables for horses. So today there is a modern hotel in that place, and of this hotel remained only one wall that you can see in this picture. It is really a great cultural monument and has a very interesting story, as it was built between 1540 and 1543 as an endowment of Gazi Husrev, at that time governor of Bosnia province, and we decided to recreate it using storytelling. So we created several digital stories that were written by a professional novelist, and we combined some video footage and some drawings of our artists who, of course, we didn't know how these people from the stories looked like, how this governor looked like, or the architect, but we used our imagination, and our visual artist has made drawings of these people. And we combined all of that in kind of hierarchical storytelling structure that was also interactive. So if a keyword was mentioned in a story that has some wider explanation, you can click on that and then get the story about that keyword. The whole story is told by Murad Bey Tardić, who was a best friend of the governor and who is buried next to him in the yard of one of our mosques in Sarajevo. We at the end implemented this project in 3 versions because when we finished the interactive storytelling version, the author of the text asked me, well, what is this? I don't understand this. What are these interactions? Where to click? Give me just a movie. So I understood that not all people appreciate these web interactive structures. And we also created a normal movie that you can find on YouTube by putting all the stories together in a sequence. So finally, the implementation of this project is through a documentary movie, interactive story, and we also created a kind of serious game where you can see the model and walk through it only if you watch these digital stories. So the project is set up in the Museum of Sarajevo next to the physical model of the old town Sarajevo. You see, this is the museum, this is the physical model. The physical model also has a glass frame around it, so the curator cannot actually point out any object on it because of the glass. So we created the replica of that, digital replica of that physical model as well, where the curator can point out the objects, and if he points out this Tašlihan object, then our application is activated. Now I will show you a short trailer to see how it looks like.
Dunjaluče golem ti si, Sarajevo sejr ti si, baš čarši.
Ime Tašli Han u prevodu sa turskog znači kameni han. Han je u doba Osmanske imperije bio objekat u kome se moglo konačiti i objedovati. Pretpostavlja se da je Tašli Han izgrađen u periodu između 1540. i 1543. godine kao zadužbina. Smješten u staroj
Riječ zadužbina, vakuf, dolazi od arapskog glagola vekafe, što znači zaustaviti, zadržati, posvetiti i ukazuje na to da je vakufska imovina, imovina koja se zavještava, ona imovina koja je izuzeta iz redovnog pravnog prometa stvari. Ja, Murat Beg Tardić, kojem sultan Sulejman Veličanstveni povjeri 8000 askera za pohod na tvrđavu Klis u Dalmaciji i nakon pobjede nagradi titulom Bega, sad ležim ovdje, pored svoga shaba i saputnika, velikog gazije Gazi Husrev Bega, u haremu kamene ljepotice koju je on dao izgraditi. A da vam pravo kažem, ovdje mi je i mjesto, jer čovjek je uvijek s onim koga voli, bio živ ili ga zvali mrtvim, vi koji sebe nazivate živima. Koliko smo mi mrtvi ili ove naše lipe ispod kojih ležimo i koje vam prave hladovinu i koliko su neki od vas živi, o tom bi se moglo pričati, ali neki drugi put ćemo o tom. I tako ih vidjeh kako mi se primiču, Gorostas od insana i njegov mimar, pa zajedno hodimo do mjesta gdje se valja izgradit Bezistan i Tašlihan, jer bo ono što Gazi Husrevbek zamisli, to ima da se gradi i da se ne žali. Isto nam je činiti neimare. Vidjeli smo da se dobro pokazalo što smo u malter za džamiju umjesto vode ubacivali mlijeko i bjelancad iz jaja. Sad valja tu metodu ponoviti. Kakvo je stanje s mejdanom pod Nozrena? Taj kamen je najbolji. Dobro je, beže. Kamena ima i za 2 saraja da gradimo, a i seljaci su načuli da ćemo graditi opet nešto i već se otimaju da nam daju svoje volove koji će jarmovima vući velike kamene ploče od mejdana do ovdje. Ovim završavam svoju ispovijest i oporučujem vam, ja, Murat Beg Tardić, koji bijah prvo vojni zarobljenik Gazi Husrevbega, a poslije zarobljenik njegova dobrog srca. Čuvajte vakuf, obnovite oštećeno, vratite oteto, jer tuđi hak se ne jede i ne otima. I učite sinove i šćeri Husrevbega da pripadaju narodu koji u svojoj plemenitosti nikada nikog nije tlačio. Neka su ponosni na svoj soj i neka znaju gdje im velikani spavaju i bdiju i šta u svojoj dobroti ostaviše njima u amanet.
So this was the story about Tašli Han, and the next project that we did in 2016 was White Bastion project. That was also a very interesting project, and that was the first project where we introduced the actor in our storytelling. You can see that from these videos that we are making advances, of course, us and technology, and that we are that our graphic design is improving as well, because we are less using students and more using the professional graphic designers. And I would recommend that sincerely to all people who want to make our this kind of projects, because the visual dimension of the project is very important for the attractiveness of that project to the users. White Bastion is a fortress in the old town Sarajevo. It is actually on the brink of the city. You can see it here. And because during the medieval period, the whole city started from this hill, and there are city walls still preserved. And then later on in the Ottoman period, after the Ottomans conquered Bosnia, the city expanded in the valley of the river below this hill. So this fortresses, the city walls themselves were a part of archaeological excavations since many years, led by the Museum of Sarajevo archaeologists. And one of them was our collaborator. He was excavating this fortress and he found remains from 3 time periods there in the site. He found the remains from medieval period, from Ottoman period, and from Austrian-Hungarian period. He was really impressed by these findings, and he said to me, how about we recreate the appearances of the fortress and the changes in history of this fortress by 3D technologies. And I accepted that idea. Of course, we didn't have any funding, but at that time I was working at Bosnian Television as a chief graphic designer. So I asked our management if they are happy to go into co-production with us, that they give us the crew and we will create digital stories that can be a documentary for their production. And we made that agreement. So this was a project done by our NGO and Bosnian Television, actually a combination of digital storytelling and 3D reconstructions of this object. You will see in the trailer that we have 6 assumed appearances of this fortress through history from medieval period to the present period from actually Austrian-Hungarian period when the last interventions on the fortress were done. So now again, let's watch the trailer.
Ja sam sarajevski vojnik, zatočenik vremena, ostavljen od smrti i prolaznosti. Svjedočim stoljeća, ratove, požare, tuge i radosti. Star sam koliko prvi kamen koji je u sarajevske bedeme uzidan da zaustavi tuđe vojske. U ovu sam priču ušao da vam pokažem svoj dom u bijeloj tabiji, koja je srce starog grada vratnika, što dominira istočnim prirodnim vratima Sarajeva. Mene su pohodili mnogi, oni odlazili, a ja ostajao. Sve drugo će proći, Sarajevo će biti, svi drugi će otići, a ja ću ostati da pripovijedam priču o njihovoj prolaznosti i o mome trajanju u vječnosti Sarajeva. Mnogi su u mnogim vremenima sanjali Sarajevo na koljenima. Zato su mnogi u mnogim vremenima slali svoje izvidnice da pobilježe ima li se Sarajevo odakle braniti. Sve njih je zanimao moj dom, dom vječnog sarajevskog vojnika. Sve drugo će proći. Sarajevo će biti. Samo sarajevski vojnik, zatočenik vremena, ostavljen od smrti i prolaznosti, traje i pjeva. Ja sam vojnik sreće, mene metak neće. Zašto bolan imaš sreće pa te metak neće? Zato bona komšinice, što gledam ti bijelo lice. Ma šalim se. Sloboda Sarajeva je starija od vremena. Zato ova priča u ovoj priči.
So this was the intro of the trailer of the project, and you can see that actually the project is a combination of storytelling, 3D models, and also reconstructions of archaeological findings, where we digitalized the findings as parts of some objects that they belong to, and then we recreated the whole object to show the users what was that part of. Also, this actor is very famous in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and he played all the characters, actually an eternal Bosnian soldier that changed the uniforms but remained fighting for the freedom of his city. These projects that I mentioned brought us some references because we were publishing our findings in this interactive digital storytelling field. And we were present at the conferences, so we have been noticed by the international community of researchers in this field. And we were invited in 2011 in our first European project, that was the Virtual Museum Transnational Network, or vmas.net. Daria will remember our presentation in 2012 when Sorin and I gave a workshop about the work on this project. And for us, it was the excellent experience because at first we learned a lot from our partners from 18 institutions in 13 countries. And furthermore, we got visibility, European visibility, and it was the door that opened for us for next projects. In 2016, we got the Horizon 2020 project Aymara Culture, and now we are running one Creative Europe project called Real Heroes. So a little bit, I will tell you about all these projects. Virtual Museum Transnational Network was about the synthesis of knowledge about virtual museums, technologies that can be used for their development, and also about the new profession that we tried to define as a digital curator. That would be a museum professional curator who would be familiar with digital technologies and their potential, and who could initiate creation of digital content for the museum or digitalization of certain artifacts or cultural monuments. The project ended after 4 years of research with a huge European exhibition called Keys to Rome. The exhibition was about the Roman Empire during the rule of Emperor Augustus. At that time, the Roman Empire included almost the whole Europe and basically half of the world. And we created this exhibition at the same time in 4 cities, in Rome, Amsterdam, Alexandria, and Sarajevo. All of these cities used to be parts of Roman Empire at that time. It was held in 2014. And it connected 4 physical museums that have artifacts from Roman period and adjoined Roman heritage sites. We created several digital applications in virtual and augmented reality. At that time, we didn't use headset because they were not yet so popular, but we used this natural interaction using Kinect sensor, where you have the Kinect sensor in front of the projector, and the user is standing in front of the projection and moving his hands, making some movements that mean something for the application, for moving in the virtual environment, for collecting objects, and so on. And we created an application connecting all of these 4 museums exhibits and some sites that we reconstructed. So if you are, for example, in Sarajevo, we reconstructed some Roman therme remains and the Roman villa, and one basilica from early Christian period. So now this girl is in the middle of basilica, and she is supposed to collect some objects from that basilica that were found there. As soon as she collects all the objects from Sarajevo region, the other 3 locations open for her, so she can visit virtually Amsterdam, Alexandria, and Rome, and walk through their cultural monuments, recreations, and collect their exhibits. In 2016, we were invited in a Horizon 2020 consortium, IMARE Culture, that set up a goal of recreating underwater cultural heritage. Underwater cultural heritage, as I said in the keynote, is the most not accessible cultural heritage because in order to see it, you have to dive. Of course, not all of us are divers, very few of us are, especially if you have to have a certificate. And furthermore, the archaeological underwater sites are not allowed to be visited to any diver. It can be visited only by the underwater archaeologists. So basically, we as non-archaeologists can see only photos and videos of what they found underwater. This project had a goal to overcome that problem and to actually unsink the underwater cultural heritage, to recreate the stories about sunken ships, about sunken cities, and some selected sites using virtual and augmented reality. The role of our laboratory in that project was to create interactive digital storytelling for all of these applications. Here in the photo, you can see how many members had our team and all kinds of different professionals. So we actually defined a new method for interactive digital storytelling together with the experts from other fields, non-technical, such as human-computer interaction, communicology, psychology, visual arts, film arts, and so on. And we created guidelines for interactive digital storytelling that we published in one of our papers and established a platform called Sarajevo Charter for interactive digital storytelling. We actually recommend to people who want to create such applications that they have to create short stories, that these short stories have to be informative, and there are other guidelines, you can check them if you like. So in order to demonstrate these guidelines and how the outcome looks like, we created a pilot application about the ship from the antique Greek period that sank long time ago at the coast of Cyprus, close to the place called Kyrenia. Kyrenia is in archaeology known as one of the oldest shipwrecks in the world, and it was found by accident by a Cypriot diver who went down looking for sponges, and he saw something on the bottom of the sea and informed the authorities, and then an American group of archaeologists came and discovered that it was actually an ancient ship made of wood, and they had a problem how to take it out because the wood would decay immediately and fall apart when it was taken to the air from the water. So they used special chemical procedures to take out the complete shipwreck, and it is placed in a museum in that place, Kyrenia. And there are several replicas of this ship in various museums around Cyprus. And one of these museums was our partner. It was the museum in Ayia Napa, and it was called Talasa. So we created the replica of that ship in virtual reality and 6 stories about the ship, about its technical characteristics, where it was sailing, and so on. And also we introduced a character, the wife of the captain of the ship, who was telling the story about her husband and what was assumed to be a reason of their sinking. After that pilot application, we also created a seafaring game together with other partners that was about the captain who was driving his ship around Mediterranean in classical Greek period and trying to get rich. So you see on the left slide, the left photo, that there is a map of Mediterranean, And actually, the problem was at that time there was no navigation devices, so they had to sail very close to the coast, and they used the stars as a navigation with certain methods that they had. So the goal of this game was to introduce the users, the players, with the ships in the ancient Greek period, and with the sailing technology methodology at that period, and also the life at that period. So we created some cut scenes for that game, and these cut scenes were a kind of composites, animations with the real actor recorded against the green screen. You can see that our character was changing costumes and was playing in the stories about banks, about coins, about commodities, life on board, pirates, sailing seasons, ships, slaves, and trade. Another application that was developed during this project was so-called Drive Visits application, where we actually made our users dive. So the application is a combination of diving and seeing what is visible underwater in the virtual reconstruction, and the reconstruction of the selected sites themselves. There are 3 selected sites for this application. One is the city in Italy called Baia. Another one are 2 shipwrecks, Mazotos close to Cyprus and Schlendi close to Malta. These shipwrecks are very famous underwater archaeological sites, and we combined the appearance of the shipwreck underwater with some storytelling. For us, the most complex was this Baia storytelling, because the Italian archaeologists who excavated Baia wanted to create a more complex story. What is Baia? Baia is a place that used to be a luxurious summer resort for Roman aristocracy. It was a kind of Las Vegas of Roman Empire, and the rich Romans, including the emperors, had their summer houses there. Today, because of the tectonic disturbances, the half of the city is underwater. There is archaeological park, which is visible here on land, but the second half of the city is 7 meters below water surface, and you can actually visit the remains underwater if you are a certified diver. But this application had a task to enable also people who are not divers to see these remains and to see the reconstruction of one villa that was found underwater. So the Italian archaeologists gave us a plot of the story that a rich aristocrat should be buying a statue from a sculptor to decorate his lavish villa garden. And we create several characters in that story, and we superimpose them in the reconstruction of the villa model that was created by Italian colleagues, and recreated in a way also a life of people in that place during the Roman period. Now you will see the short gameplay video to see what actually the user of the VR headset sees when starts the application. So at the beginning, you are on surface above the place where is the underwater heritage. Then you use your controller to dive. Now you are diving, and while diving, you see the remains of the city below you. That remains will be reconstructed by storytelling. You have also these control points around you, and you have a diver that is in front of you to lead you through these remains. You see here the remains of the walls, of mosaics, and there is also one magic button. When you press it, the water disappears and the villa appears, and then you can walk around the villa in virtual reality, visit various reconstructed rooms and the garden of the villa. So this is a part of the application. The second part is the storytelling. So now I will show you one of these stories to show you how there are 360 videos, and you can turn around in the story and look around you to the reconstruction. So this is a story
this is
about the
just one of many
interior of the
societies
villa.
here.
This character is the sculptor.
Most other
this
villas
is his assistant.
look very similar.
Now
to it.
I can turn around.
Their appearance has been
See the
captured in
villa.
frescoes in Pompeii and Stabia.
The construction.
The
And
villa
also I
has
can
two
listen to
distinct
the
parts,
actors.
the residential area and the baths. The rooms which compose the villa are extended for 40 meters along the road and are flanked by thermal baths, tabernae, and other villas. And for many other tens of meters, they extend towards the sea.
You can see that the sound also moves as I'm turning around. It's quite a complex process of creating 3D sound that we now are getting in touch with and implementing in our applications. So now to show you, to summarize this work on IMR storytelling, I will show you again the show reel, which is a combination of all of these applications that we created that I mentioned before. I also have to say that this project was very successful and the European Commission really appreciated our work, and we won several awards by the European Commission, and we have been invited to several European exhibitions to demonstrate these deliverables and to show to the people how they can virtually dive. And these deliverables are installed in the museums that are partners of the project. The project that is still ongoing, and it actually should have ended this year, but because of COVID and the impossibility to demonstrate our deliverables at the end of the project, we got the extension. So the project will end next year in June. And this project is called Real Heroes. It is Creative Europe project, and the purpose of the project is to introduce the youngsters with the real heroes, like the historical characters that were very important for the history of mankind. Today we are witnessing that youngsters are admiring to YouTubers, to some rock stars, to some people who are, you know, they can be interesting and good professionals, but they are not really kind of historical characters. We want to make the youngsters learn who is Leonardo da Vinci, and we created, actually we finished a multiplayer virtual reality game where the youngsters, which are our target group, can play that game in order to find the parts of Leonardo da Vinci inventions and to put them together in order to meet Leonardo da Vinci. So the game is the multiplayer game for 3 players. There are 3 players with the headsets, They can be in the same physical space, but they can be also in the different locations because there is online implementation of the game. So they are placed in the recreation of the Leonardo da Vinci workshop, and they see that some of his inventions, like ball bearing or a painting of Mona Lisa, which is artwork, were kind of damaged or missing some parts. So their task is to find the missing parts, fix these inventions, and once they do it, Leonardo da Vinci appears and greets them and thanks them. So this is a very interesting game especially for youngsters, and we hope that we will be able finally to show it at the youth film festivals, where we will organize the physical setup of that game, and also at the end of the project we will release it to be played online. Monster bridge diving or jumping we already mentioned. I will, for people who didn't listen to the keynote, I will just briefly repeat that Mostar is a city in Bosnia and Herzegovina famous by its bridge. It's called Old Bridge. It's a very high bridge on the river Neretva, and there is 300 years old tradition of jumping from that bridge. That is very dangerous because the river is not all the same depth, so they have to jump in the deepest part. And the bridge itself is a cultural heritage monument under protection of UNESCO. It was built in 16th century and unfortunately destroyed by Croats in 1993. But the international community helped its rebuilding in 2004 and it was reopened in 2004. There are every summer competitions of jumping in that bridge, and there is also in the last few years the Red Bull competition of this jumping. We decided to, actually one of our students had an idea to create a virtual jump from the bridge, where you put the headset and you are placed on the top of the bridge and you have the opportunity to jump. As the professor who gave a master class yesterday said about the Russian reconstruction of the Moscow old town, that the feeling of immersion in the virtual reality is very intensive, and that people who are scared of height, they're also scared of height in the virtual reality. We have the same experience, and that makes this application so very attractive. So the students had this jump as a simulation in Unity 3D software. He made it as his master's thesis. But then we decided to expand it into a real digital storytelling application, adding some VR videos, 360 videos from different places around the bridge with stories about the bridge. So actually you can first hear the story about history of the bridge, then architecture, destruction and reconstruction. And you can also see the interview with the champion of bridge diving, Lawrence Listo, who won the championship 13 times. And after you see all of these stories, you are presented with a test to check what you learned from these stories. There are some very simple questions, and their purpose is only to make the users pay attention to the text and really learn something. So once you pass the test, you are allowed to jump from the bridge, and then actually you can physically jump. This application is super popular. All our media was crazy about it. All journalists wanted to jump from the bridge, and now it's installed in several museums, and it's also available online. I will show you the short trailer to just get the feeling how it looks like. This was a really successful application. And after that, we recreated another intangible cultural heritage story that actually cannot be experienced in reality. During the siege, Sarajevo survived because we at some point decided to dig a tunnel under the runway of the airport in order to connect the besieged city with the free territory that had food and other commodities that were not accessible in the city, also to get some weapons to be able to defend ourselves. And this tunnel is now, of course, closed because of the runway, of the safety of the runway of the airport. But there is a tunnel museum where 20 meters of the tunnel is open for the public. And there are artifacts and stories about the tunnel in that museum that can be seen in order to understand what was happening. The only way to pass through the whole tunnel is actually in virtual reality. So we decided to create a virtual reality application that again has some stories in 360 video told by actress Selma Al-Spahic that you saw yesterday, and by the curator of the museum about the running across runway before the tunnel was built, about the tunnel entrances, about building the tunnel and the museum. Once you pass the quiz from the knowledge of that, from that stories, you can cross through the tunnel. And actually the real crossing of the tunnel or passing the tunnel was long about 12 minutes if there was no crowd and some kind of traffic jam in the tunnel. But our simulation lasts only 4 minutes because of the virtual reality headset, and we didn't want to make our users super uncomfortable. So I will show you now the trailer, and actually this is the first application that was set up in the physical museum. So when you visit the museum collection and this 20 meters of the tunnel, you can take the headset there and pass through the real tunnel and experience this kind of very traumatic experience, because the tunnel was very low ceiling, it was full of water, and of course it was very dangerous because they were shooting at the entrances. And the people who really passed the tunnel told us that the application is very realistic and that the experience is close to what they really experienced in the reality during the war. This project is also online, so you can visit it at our lab website and you can download the application and try to pass through the tunnel. The next project that I will introduce you with a little bit more in detail is the Roman Heritage in the Balkans project that was mentioned yesterday in the presentation of the actress Selma Al-Spahic, who was playing in the stories from this project. The Roman heritage is the common heritage of the Balkans, and we got involved with 3 other countries, Serbia, Montenegro, and Albania, and tried to revive that heritage in the people's memory. and try to recreate some cultural monuments from the Roman heritage sites in this region. The project was going on for 2 years, and we did in the first year 4 sites, one country, one site each per country. And in the second year, we made another 4 sites. So altogether, we have 8 stories about Roman monuments from the Balkans region. We recreated a Roman villa and terme near Ilidža in Sarajevo, Roman military camp and city Viminacium near Požarevac in Serbia, also another fortress in Serbia, another villa in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and 2 places in Montenegro, Municipium S near Pljevlja and Doklea, a famous Roman city near Podgorica. And we also in Albania recreated the Dures Amphitheater and the Butrint archaeological site, which is actually under protection of UNESCO. The application is a combination of storytelling and actually the virtual reconstruction. So these are really VR videos. VR video is unlike 360 video, which is only a recording. This is a composite of the recording, the 3D reconstruction, and the actor who is added to the 3D reconstruction. We actually, at the beginning of the application, we select the language, and the application is done in 6 languages. One is missing in this scheme. It's English, Serb, Montenegrin, Bosnian, Albanian, and Italian. And when you select the language, you get the map of these locations where they used to be placed, and you select the location from the map, and then these stories open. After you see the stories, then you have again a quiz, and after you answer correctly on the questions, you can explore the objects that were found on certain archaeological sites, some of these sites, and you can turn around those objects. They are museum exhibits. And we realized that actually for the user it's very, very interesting to be able to turn around the museum exhibit, because in the real museum, you cannot touch the exhibits. They are always protected by some glass, or of course the touching them would damage them. But in virtual reality, you can really get a mutual feeling with the exhibit. You have the possibility of detailed exploration using controllers and the application that is programmed that way. Before I play you the trailer, I will tell you briefly about the process that we used, how actually we created this application. So I will go back 2 slides to show you our team in various sites. So the first step was, of course, to collect historical data. And we had collaborators, archaeologists from each country that were engaged in the project, and that they gave us the brief descriptions of these selected sites. Of course, they selected as well the sites. And based on that information, we created scenarios for digital stories. Of course, the scenarios were created by a professional writer. Then me and Bojan, that you met in the presentation about VR video, with the director, went to these locations to record 360 videos. Locations for recording were selected based on the scenario, and we came back with the films, 360 films of each location. Then the compositing artists created 3D models of the villas or cultural monuments that were selected and superimposed them over the video. So when you put your headset, you see the physical location as you see it in reality, but then the reconstruction appears in front of you, and the actress appears in the costume from the Roman period, telling you the story about that location. And that's very attractive because you cannot experience it in reality. And basically for us who are not archaeologists, archaeological sites are really difficult to read because there are some remains that we don't understand well and we cannot imagine what was there. So virtual reality can really be used for a fantastic understanding and experiencing the life in history on that site. Now I will again play the trailer, and you will see, for those who didn't follow Selma's presentation yesterday, you will see a combination of all these stories that we created.
I am Minerva, the goddess of knowledge. I'm taking you to the excavations of the imperial city of Viminatium, a Roman military camp that was built in the 1st century and lasted until the 7th century. I am Minerva, the goddess of knowledge. I'm taking you to a Roman city in the immediate vicinity of Plevna, which we refer to as a Municipium S. I'm taking you to the Roman city of Doclea in Montenegro. I'm taking you on a tour of one of the Roman monuments in the Balkans, to the villa in Mogorilo, near Čapljina. I'm taking you to Butrint, an ancient city in the south of Albania, which provides an archaeological evidence of ancient and medieval cultures. I'm taking you to one of the most famous Roman monuments in the Balkans, located in Durrës. It is a 2nd century amphitheater, the largest of all in the Balkans.
After this project, we reused the part of the content that we created in Sarajevo, around Sarajevo, about the Roman heritage of Sarajevo, and created an augmented reality application for our tourist community. This application is activated using the brochure that the tourist can get in the tourist office or in tourist info. And when you, at first on the title page of the brochure, you have the QR code for downloading the application that you install on your mobile device. And then you unwrap the brochure and you see the map. That was what Daria yesterday asked, how we activate the augmented reality. You see here we have these kind of tracker images, and each image has adjoined augmented reality content. So when you point your phone over this image, of course, with the application active, then the digital content appears, Selma appears and tells you the story, or the reconstruction of an object appears. So now, instead of talking about that, I will show you the trailer and you will see how it looks like.
I am Minerva, the goddess of knowledge. I'm taking you to the thermal spas in Ilija, in the Sarajevo plain. The thermal spas were a spa resort, but also a public bathing site. An urban villa facility was discovered.
This application is also accessible on the physical location of the Roman heritage, where we have a panel with the map where you can also use the application pointing your mobile device on that physical map on that panel. Another augmented reality application we created, and I mentioned also in the keynote, is the augmented reality guide through Sarajevo. That guide is a pilot project. Because we had a very small budget, we recreated only 6 objects that do not exist anymore. If you walk around Sarajevo, of course, the streets have changed and the city has changed. And unfortunately, some of the cultural monuments were either completely destroyed and something else was built in that place, or they were partially preserved and maybe the object around was built. So in any ways, you cannot imagine how the past of that location looked like. And there comes augmented reality that can really reconstruct the past of each location on your mobile device as a digital content. We used these 6 locations and created an application in the following way. First, we created virtual models of these objects that were destroyed based on the archaeological and historical information. Then we designed the brochure again. The brochure has a QR code for download of the application. It works in the same way as the Roman heritage. And then in the middle of the brochure is the map. And the application has built in the navigator. So if you are not in the location, you can be guided to the location by navigation software. When the software guides you to the location, you point your mobile phone or mobile device over the map and the reconstruction of the location appears. And you can have also on click some information on the object that used to be there. It was a very interesting experience, and you can see in the trailer how it looks like actually. If you pay attention to this wonderful music, that is rock music that is put below this trailer, it was created by our rock star Emir Bukovica, who actually was engaged to create the music for our old crafts virtual museum. It was again an interesting story how I met this rock star. We were invited to the Tuzla Film Festival to present the VR video to the film professionals. And, you know, as any movie festival, there are many celebrities and superstars there. And this Emir, the rock star, approached us and said, this is what you do is very interesting. Do you think we can collaborate? So I told him, you can maybe create music for our next project. So he accepted. He was very happy to do it. And we created this old crafts virtual museum. with his music as a background music, but he also created an author song as an independent song with the same music. So we got a great PR for this project because he is very popular singer and people listen to his songs, and also they see the connection with the virtual museum and visit the virtual museum. So this Old Crafts Virtual Museum, as I mentioned also in the keynote, is about history of crafts that during the Ottoman period existed in Baščaršija, old town Sarajevo. At that time, in the best period of Ottoman rule, we had over 80 crafts in that place. And actually, all the streets in that old town are named by various crafts. Unfortunately, many of these crafts are today completely extinct. And because of economical reasons, the craftsmen closed their shops or they abandoned the crafts and found another jobs. Most of these crafts were inherited from one generation in the family to another, and there are still several families who preserve that crafts. So in order to draw the attention to this wonderful intangible heritage and to preserve these processes, at least in the videos, we decided to create this museum and to promote these crafts. So together with the Museum of Sarajevo curator, we selected 3 crafts that we can fit in this budget. And the last craftsmen were our collaborators. So we visited the last brush maker, the last maker of a drink called Boza, and the last tailor decorator. And they told us their stories and showed us how they do their crafts. We also created an illustration of Baščaršija place that is this drawing behind the actor. That drawing was created by a famous illustrator from Bosnia and Herzegovina, Emir Durmišević, and for him was also an interesting experience. He told me, this is the first time that I'm able to enter in my drawing because the drawing is 360 image, and when you put the headset on, you are actually entering in the drawing. So in that drawing, we put the actor. The actor is a famous Bosnian actor, Adnan Hasković, who also played in many Hollywood movies. And he's a real celebrity, not only in Bosnia. He's also a very nice person, and he accepted to work with us for a very small budget. So we dressed him in 3 different costumes, and he recited some poetic stories about each of these crafts, and he actually played the ancient craftsman. But if you click behind him, you enter in the real craftsman shop recorded in 360 video, and you can see the video of the craftsmen doing their process, their craft. Also, after this storytelling part, you can click in the application and the 360 videos of Baščaršija open with the labels of each craft that was popular at that time or present at that time in Baščaršija in 3 different historical periods. So you can see how the number of crafts increased. What is also important for the visitors is that they learn the names of the crafts, because as the crafts were disappearing, also the names were disappearing from our language. So now we don't even understand what some of the names mean. So you get the 360 video of the place with the labels of the crafts, and when you click on the label, the explanation shows up where you are told what was that craft and what they were doing. After we finished the project, in order to thank the rock star for his contribution, we also created a VR music video for him, for his song, and that is the first VR music video in Bosnia and Herzegovina. We used the material from the project, and also we recorded him on the green screen and put him inside this illustration. Now I will show you the trailer for those who didn't see it yesterday.
Putujemo slovima kroz vrijeme, otkrivamo breme znanja i uzdanja. U popisu iz 1530. godine u Sarajevu je zabilježeno 40 zanata. Sa nama su sarači, kožari, naubati, bravari, kujundžije, puškari, tabaci, čizmari, čebedžije, papučari, aščije, nalčadžije, bazerđani, arakijadžije, sagrakčije, kazandžije, kalajđije, mumđije, čurčije, kapari, tapčije, tesari. Ko bi rekao da će svilene niti kazazije prestati kititi haljine, jastuke, tkanine, pa i zlatne jazije. A u davninama sve odšarenila vrilo, dok se koncima, srmama i plemenitim nitima pisalo, slikalo i šilo.
I'll show you also this 360 video that was created for the, not all of it, but just a glimpse that was created for the singer. You can see that I can move the video.
Do Ćurčiluka nije prošla ljepša djevojka, kazandžije starog unuka. Bila mi je sve zna, da je meni bila suđena sva, da je mene dušom voljela, nikada naš kraj preboljela. Da li je noć ili da li je dan, putujem po svijetu, putujem sam, tražim srce kojem sad ne pripadam ja.
Okay, so that's a fragment of that video. You can see how we reuse the materials from the project and created a 360 video, musical video. The underground project.
Selma, I think we
are out of
our time is over.
Okay, so I will just go to
and
the
we have
conclusion.
question.
Yeah. Okay. So can I conclude?
Please.
Yes. So the conclusion is that you saw the powerful potential of IT technologies to present and preserve cultural heritage. And you saw also how digital storytelling is important to make users travel through time into the past. We can now recreate the objects that do not exist anymore and bring them back to collective memory. There is also a great potential of combination between 3D reconstructions and VR video, and actually we can now contribute to the digital humanity field that it is a more and more topic of research in the Europe and also in the world. I thank you for your attention and I'm available for potential questions.
Большое спасибо, Сельма. Я бы сказала, даже с не меньшим интересом смотрели те ролики, которые мы уже видели, и по-новому как-то они у нас прозвучали и более подробно. Но тем не менее у меня остался вопрос из серии удовлетворения любопытства. А почему факультет электротехнический занимается графическими реконструкциями?
Because at our faculty we have 4 departments. It is automation, power engineering, telecommunications, and computer science. And the part of computer science department is the computer graphics field that we are studying. So therefore, that's why.
А есть ли какая-то связь с факультетами, которые занимаются историей, социологией, туризмом?
Yes, we are working together with many different professionals, as I said many times. At our university, we have 26 faculties, and we are only now integrated, so they all turned into departments. So, of course, we collaborate with the Fine Arts Academy, with the Archaeology Department, with the History Department, and not only from our university, but also from various other universities in Bosnia, in the region, in Europe, and even in the world. I have collaboration with Canadian, American, Australian universities. So we have these professionals from all over the world. Now, hopefully with Russians as well.
Спасибо. Я хочу уточнить. Дмитрий Сергеевич, у вас вопросов нет? Может, появились? Дмитрий Сергеевич молчит. Потому что у нас просто как-то иссякли вопросы в Зуме, я поэтому интересуюсь. В первый день у нас были... О, Сергей Ефимович появился. Приятно видеть. И, может быть, есть какие-то вопросы или соображения, или комментарии к мастер-классу, который у нас прошел, потому что это уже все, мы уже завершаем, совсем завершаем. Все это последние моменты, когда можно что-то сказать для всех, дальше только написать.
Я хотел бы поблагодарить Селму Рызвич за удивительно интересный и познавательный доклад, потому что, кстати, вот было очень интересно наблюдать изменения технологий по годам. То есть вот мы за эти годы посмотрели, как менялись технологии, как менялся дизайн, но самое важное то, что контекст ситуации, это действительно был реальный storytelling, очень интересное виртуальное путешествие в далекую от нас республику. Ну, по европейским меркам она была близка, но мы с удовольствием совершили такое виртуальное путешествие. Thank you very much for your very interesting for your story. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sergey. I would like to tell to everybody that we are really happy to be involved in this conference and to meet this community. And we are really open for any kind of collaboration that you can think of. Please contact me, contact us, think of new ideas. We can apply for funding together. We can do something with students. What you do is really exciting. I really love Russia and all these countries that the different territories, different histories. So for me, it would be very exciting to do some work together with you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Вчера возник вопрос, где проводить следующую виртуальную археологию. И вот у меня такая идея, не поехать ли нам в Якутск? Думаете? Мы уже все готовы. Осталось, чтобы университет Северо-Восточный был также готов.
Ну, спасибо за предложение. Нам с коллегами надо, конечно, обсуждать и такое ответственное мероприятие провести, попытаться. Но... Спасибо большое.
Хорошо, тогда я всех благодарю. Большое спасибо, что вы были с нами. Я надеюсь, что вам было интересно, полезно. Не смущайтесь, пишите, присоединяйтесь к группе «Виртуальная археология» в Фейсбуке. Вот за эти дни присоединилось еще какое-то количество человек. Все подключились, им хочется посмотреть и фотографии, и комментарии. И тогда мы прощаемся, наверное, до следующего раза.
Bye.
Спасибо, Дарья Юрьевна. Всего доброго. Спасибо огромное всем организаторам конференции. Всего хорошего.
I will run, I will climb, I will soar. I'm undefeated. Oh, jumping out of my skin for the core. Yeah, I believe it. Oh, the past is everything.